Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. This week, we were invited to a little a forum or what have you, and me, Brother Kish, and Elder Barak went to this. It was held at a big Christian church in Decatur, and it was about the police and the recent rise of shooting of black people and whatnot, and all of these different churches were invited, the different church leaders and all of the police chiefs, and they're doing this from like county to county, and there were people representing different faiths. There was of course all kind of it was a Christian pastor that was doing it. Actually, the guy that you see on TV that has been on a couple of times dealing with some issues when some black people got shot by the police. But what we found interesting is in every one of those situations where there's something that concerns us, one of the main people standing up front was one of the several rabbis from Jewish congregations, and they even said a prayer in the thing, and me and Kish were sitting back like I haven't seen one of them shot down in the street at all. And I notice even when it's something to do with the civil rights movement, my elder used to tell me, go back and look at those pictures and you're gonna see those same people, those same groups of individuals. They're gonna be there as if they are participating in our cause. But when you get right down to it, it's very difficult to control something if you're not a part of it. So you'll find that people, it will appear that they are for your cause, but they are making sure that old adage of keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. Because at the end of the day, you have to consider if somebody else is pretending to be you and they are taking your culture, they need to know every move you make. And how are they going to know every move you make unless they come across as a helper in all of your endeavors? So, and the other part of that is the interesting high esteem that our people hold the ones who have pretended to be us. Yahweh has openly said he's not about saving one group of people. He has opened the door unto the Gentiles. But the interesting thing is you now have Gentiles telling us that they are Jews and that we are Gentiles, and that ain't gonna fly. There's something wrong with that. When you have a rabbi who is, we study this book, we can backtrack the history, and I can tell you, and after a while, if you don't know, you'll be able to show that their lineage is not of Shem, that they are not Shemites, that they are of a Gentile background, which is completely fine because Yahweh has opened the door. But when you get ready to flip that around and then make me a Gentile, then we have some issues. So we're gonna get into some things that we're gonna have to put out, so that when you encounter these things, what happens is a lot of times we let the pomp and circumstance of other people give us a little self-esteem about what it is we know. And it's one thing to sit right here, and people don't understand why we go over several aspects of the same thing so that you will understand it. Because let me tell you something, we're looking at each other right now. It's all comfortable to sit right here and talk, Kish talking to Ephraim, Absalom, talking to his wife. That's all fine and dandy. But you got to have this stuff deep enough in you when you feel that feeling when you're the only one that look like you in the room. See, that's the part that you are not taking into consideration. As you sitting here, you fellowshipping amongst like people. But you got to be willing and get past that little jittery point. When your heartbeat starts fluttering, When you start getting nervous, you got to push past that. That means you got to go over this and over this and over this. So when you in the presence of your enemy, you don't take off running. When I got ready to sit down, the part of the conversation I heard, I didn't hear the first part of the conversation. I sat down because I got there just a couple seconds late. As I sat down, I heard Kish and Barack was already at the table. Barack or Kish, one of them said, it was a guy named Bob sitting next to us. One of them said, so what are you? The guy says, I'm a Catholic. Barack then says, oh, so y'all the people that changed the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday. I said, why we can't have peace in here? I just got here. I had been there 0.7 seconds. But see, this is where it behooves you to keep your mouth closed. Now, as I said nothing, I was thinking to myself, boy, he sure pulled that dagger out quick. This the part I missed. Right before I sat down, the guy asked, so you think you Jews? That comment deserved a cut. See, this is why you learn to keep your mouth closed. I didn't hear the front part of that conversation. Now, once I heard it, Kish, let me explain that cut to you. Come here. So, I lean over. He tell me, to do that. I said, well, you know what? Then that was very justified then. Well, high five him later. So, but I didn't know that right away. But I also did not react right away. So this is also one of those things that you have to learn to do, because I've seen Yahweh. Yahweh will blind you to something while he reveals other things to you. He'll blind you from something that's right in front of your face because he doesn't want you to react right then. And then later on, he'll turn around and show you that. And you're like, I was standing there. Why didn't I see it? Because he didn't want you to. It ain't no different than what happened in this book. Some of y'all done read the same stuff 30 times, but you ain't seen none of it until you sat here. Yahweh decides when you gonna see. Yahweh decides when you gonna hear. And he will do that even in the midst of your understanding. He'll let somebody come right in front of your face. They can be talking and you won't hear it. They can do some display 6 feet from you and you won't see it. Somebody else tell you later, yeah, you ain't see when the dude pulled out the machine gun? No, where was I? And you was standing right there by the chair. Why? How come I ain't see it? Because Yahweh didn't want you to see it. Because your reaction might have caused you and other people some problems had you saw it at that point. See, we talk about the Spirit, but you got to give the Spirit leeway to work and understand when it's working. That means everything ain't about when you want to know it. Everything ain't about when it's comfortable to you. There's certain things that's going to be uncomfortable to you that Yahweh want to keep from you to keep you alive until you know enough to deal with that particular thing. That's how the Spirit works. Hey, brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have favorite love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yeshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear, than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Now, as we look at the graphic of today's sermon, which is entitled Anti-Semitism and the Synagogue of Satan, you first see this menorah, which is a 9-branch menorah. When we read what's written in this book, Yahweh has given us 7 golden candlesticks. Yeshua had 7 spirits. What you're going to find in Jewish congregations is you're going to find a 9-branch menorah, not a 7-branch menorah. Those things represent spirits. So we then have to ask ourselves where these other 2 spirits come from. Yahweh has given us the number 7 is the number of completion. We have 7 holy days. The 7th holy day is in the 7th month. Yeshua has 7 spirits. Where these other 2 spirits come from? And then when we get down to what is given unto us from the powers that be, there are also other holy days that are kept other than what's in Leviticus 23. So we find that there's a different doctrine going on, and we have to deal with what's written so that we can ascertain what it is we're supposed to be dealing with. We're going to begin today's sermon in Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon you, the blessing and the curse.
This is one of the things that nobody wants to discuss. They tell you how rich a certain group of people is, so they must be God's chosen people. So then they want to deal with the blessing as being monetary value. The part they don't want to talk about is the other part, and the curse. We weren't just given one part. We were given both. They both go hand in hand. You can't have a check without going to work. You can't just show up on payday with your hand out. There's something wrong there. The blessing and the curse goes together, hand in hand. But no one will discuss any curses. They only want to discuss blessing. That's a problem right there. Go ahead.
Which I have set before you, and you shall call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yahweh your El has driven you. And shall return unto Yahweh your El, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day. you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul. That then Yahweh your El will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations where the Yahweh your Elohim have scattered you.
So even in the end game for the children of Israel is being returned to our land, not the pie in the sky of going to heaven. That was never our objective. It was never told us in the beginning. That was never the goal. Once we got into dealing with other people's doctrine, their doctrine included floating off to heaven. That was never if you read the Valley of the Dry Bones, it's talking about resurrecting Israel and bringing them back to Israel. It ain't talking about us floating in the sky. Go ahead.
Verse 4. If any of yours be driven out onto the utmost part of heaven, from thence will Yahweh your Elohim gather you, and from thence will he fetch you. And Yahweh your Elohim will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will do you good, and multiply you above your fathers. And Yahweh your Elohim will circumcise your heart, and the heart of your seed, to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, that you may live. And Yahweh your Elohim will put all these curses upon your enemies, and on them that hate you, which persecuted you. And you shall return and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commandments which I command you this day. And Yahweh your Elohim will make you plenteous in every work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your cattle, and in the fruit of your land, for good. For Yahweh will again rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. If you shall hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law.
If you shall hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim to keep his commandments, not the commandments of men, his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law. What we find is other people have created themselves other books, and they get their direction from other books, not this book of the law. See, there's a problem. Go ahead.
And if you turn unto Yahweh Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, for this commandment which I command you this day, it is not hidden from you, neither is it far off.
If it's not hidden from you and it's not far off, then you don't need anybody else to go and figure some other kind of book out to explain what Yahweh's instructions are. What has been given to people is, well, you have the Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Gemara are other priests, rabbis talking about the law, and their oral commentary is now supposedly just as good as if God said it himself, which is blasphemy. There's absolutely nothing that you can say, that I can say, that's going to be equal to what he said. Absolutely nothing. I don't care if you talk from now to kingdom come. There ain't nothing that's going to come out of your mouth that's going to be the same as if he said it. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 12. It is not in heaven that you should say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it.
Right. You didn't need any extra commentary, and now the commentary is outweighing the word itself. Go ahead.
But the word is very near unto you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you this day life and good, and death and evil, in that I command you this day to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in the land whither you go to possess it. But if your heart turn away, so that you will not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that you shall surely perish, and that you shall not prolong your days upon the land, whether you passest over Jordan to go to possess it.
Right. And it is not in other people's best interest that you understand the law. This is why they want us to get caught up with hip hop culture, because we'll do like this dude in this picture. He got on like 5 pair of drawers, and all of them showing. See, you walk outside. It is beneficial for other people that you walk outside your culture, because the longer you walk outside your culture, you will never become anybody. This is why they got to infiltrate everything that's going on with you. Throw a few dollars that way so that it can be controlled. You have to ask yourself, out of all the so-called hip-hop artists and the gangster rap that you hear, read the back of the album and look for the Jewish name. Why would a dude named, Rankenstein put out NWA? Right. Unless they know that it is going to negatively affect you. And every last one of them, read the back of the album. I keep telling people, when the TV show go off, sit there and watch the credits. See who's in control of giving you the image that they want you to have about you. I turned on BET yesterday and saw 3 white video. They telling you how you supposed to be black. No, that's not black enough. You got to let it hang all the way down to your back of your kneecaps. And that's black. Yeah, you're black now, guy. Yeah, right. Go ahead, man.
Verse 19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your seed may live, that you may love Yahweh your Elohim, and that you may obey his voice, and that you may cleave unto him. For he is your life, and the length of your days, that you may dwell in the land which Yahweh sware unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Esaac, and to Jacob, to give them.
Right. So then this is about the inheritance that Yahweh has promised unto the children of Israel. So you then have converts, which is a legal thing to do. Yahweh has not said that other people cannot be a part of this work. But when converts then try to tell you that they are the natural descendants, that's a problem. Let's go to chapter 31 and let's read verses 9 through 13.
Verse 9. And Moshe wrote this law and delivered unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, and unto all the leaders of Israel. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing.
So it was, when you read in one part, this law is not far from you, that you got to send somebody to go get it, that you have to go and do all of these things. It was customary for them to hear this. It says in this year of release, every 7 years, they're going to stand, and if all of them have to go and make their appearances, then at that time when Israel is gathered together, read this law in their hearing. So we're talking about kids hearing this over and over and over again. But people are telling you need some kind of outside book so that you can understand the law. Go ahead.
Gather the people together, men and women and children, and your stranger that is within your gates.
Check that out. The stranger that is within your gates. See, if people going to live in your house, they have to abide by the rules of your house. They can't come in your house with, I'm not an Israelite, so, I brought this pork chop. No, man, you can't bring no pork chop in my house, bro. Now, you got to eat that pork chop outside. Matter of fact, you turn on the water hose and rinse yourself before you come in here. Because I don't want none of that pork juice dropping all over my floor. It's one law to the homeborn and to the stranger. You can't have none of your other relatives. You got kids, then your relative kids come over. They ain't got no clothes on. Now your kids looking, well, why can't we be naked? No, they can't come in here like that. This is a culture that Yahweh has given us. And how people want to poison you against this culture is make you think, well, it's just a bunch of rules and regulations. There is no place you've ever been that don't have rules. You got a job, guess what? They got rules. You went to a club. It was a den of iniquity. Guess what? They had rules at the club. You can't go in the VIP and stand on that sofa. You can't stand on that. Matter of fact, look at you got to buy a $100 bottle to even get in that VIP. They got rules in there. Go ahead.
That they may hear and that they may learn and fear Yahweh your Elohim and observe to do all the words of this law. And that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim, as long as you live in the land, whether you go over Jordan to possess it.
And their children, which have not known anything, when they hear, they will learn to fear. So it is a direct thing to make sure that we don't hear the law. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. So you think it's just a coincidence that you flip from channel to channel on Sunday morning and everybody is telling you how the law is done away with. Every preacher is telling you how the law is done away with. Then the next thing they do is make sure you put that tithe in there. Wait a minute, ain't that in the law? Make sure you write that check now. The Lord loves a cheerful giver. Yes, he does. Wait a minute now. So is the law done away with? Well, it's done away with until you write the check. And then it's back and you went out to see, you write, see the tithes, see it's for, that's right, the law. And you got to have sense enough to recognize a game. Wait a minute, either it's part of what we're supposed to do or it's not. And how you jump in and out of it. But us having respect to persons, we let people jump in and out of it. If we respect the individual who's jumping in and out of that word. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and let's read verses 1 and 2.
Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them.
Oh, so they're being taught out of the law. They don't then have to have some other book to teach them. Hearken unto the statutes and judgments that I'm going to teach you. And then you're going to pass these down to your children, and we're going to go over these things over and over these things. So that it will be ingrained in your brain, in your spirit, to know how it is you're supposed to walk. Like when the ark was on the cart that it wasn't supposed to be, and the oxen stumbled and it shook, and the brother thought he was doing a good deed and put his hand up to catch the ark. It was Yahweh's seat. The angel had to kill him. See, when you go over these instructions over and over and over, and that stuff is in your brain and in your heart and in your spirit, when you see that thing shake, you say, let it shake. When you know what, because that represents Yahweh's seat. You can't touch that. You touch it, you've altered it. You have defiled it when you put your hand on it. If you don't understand that, then you think you're doing a good deed when you put your hand on it. There's a reason why we have rules and regulations. And King Dawid was upset that he let this thing happen where this man got killed. But if you understand what's supposed to happen, you know you ain't got no business being there. Where the Levites at that's supposed to be near that? Where they at? I'm going to go over here. So you got to know which things to walk away from. Everything that somebody invites you to be a part of, you ain't supposed to be a part of. They say, hey man, let us do this. I got kicked out of school that same way. Hey man, let's go hang out. Right. You can't agree with everything that's going. Read this note that coming up, bro.
The Talmud. Talmud, instruction, learning from a root LMD, to teach, to study, is a central text of Rabbinic Judaism. The full spelling of the letter Lamed, Lamed Mem Dalet, is read as short for the phrase, a heart that understands knowledge.
So when we deal with that, then this Talmud is a collection of things, but it's supposed to mean instruction. Now, Yahweh has said, okay, I'm going to teach you these things. Moshe, he didn't have no Talmud. He didn't have anything extra that he was teaching them. He was teaching them out of the very things that was given unto them. Go to the next one.
The term Talmud normally refers to the collection of writings named specifically for the Babylonian Talmud.
Right, they got a Babylonian Talmud. Anybody recognize that brother in that picture? Yeah. Who that is in that picture, the young dude? That's Drake. Right. See, when you understand some other things, that the Talmud tells them that they can treat you any old kind of way. They only have to respect other Jewish people. Then you follow along with how this brother goes from woman to woman and how he's dealing with, blacks. Because according to their Talmud, they only have to respect other Jewish people. They really don't have to respect you. Just follow what we got here. Keep going, brother. Did you?
Talmud Bavli. The entire Talmud consists of 63 tractates that in standard print is over 6,200 pages long.
So Yahweh gonna give us this book. Then they got a collection of all these other books. One thing you'll find out, even in the way that things are going now, people who've been paying bills for 15, 20 years can answer to this. Bills used to be very easy to understand. You looked at the bill, it took you about 3 minutes to figure out, this is what I owe, this is what I need to pay. It take you about 30 minutes now to look at a bill, because you're trying to figure out, that bill don't make no damn sense. Now, why is it purposely made confusing? So they can overcharge you, and you won't know you're being overcharged. Now, watch the devil work. If I throw all this mumbo jumbo in there, you can't figure out if what you're doing is good or bad, and that's how he gets you. Yahweh had Moshe directing them out of this law, not out of the 6,200 pages of stuff that they done added. Go to the next one, bro.
It contains the teachings and opinions of thousands of rabbis.
Thousands of rabbis. So all these people talk, and then their opinions is gathered together, and you know what opinion? Everybody got one. So now we got opinions that are now overriding the instruction that the Most High has given us. So if somebody got a good opinion, now we just make a turn toward whatever that opinion is. Go ahead.
Dating from before the Common Era through the 5th century CE on a variety of subjects, including halakha, law, Jewish ethics, philosophy, customs, history, lore, which is oral tradition passed from person to person, word of mouth, and many other topics. The Talmud is the basis for all codes of Jewish law and is widely quoted in rabbinic literature.
And if you start to read some of the things that are in it, you will truly understand just how far it is from Yahweh's word. You have to consider, all of a sudden, everything is coming out about the foulness that's in Hollywood. And we all know that Hollywood is completely Jewish controlled. So you have to ask yourself, how is it that a group of people can walk around as the holy people, yet completely molest and sexually assault everybody in this industry? You saw this one dude, this Weinstein dude, that they have said that he has allegedly did something, right? Once it came out, 10 other women. We're talking actors. We're not talking about regular people. We're talking about multi-million-dollar actors who then start coming out saying that the same thing happened to them. Why did they not feel powerful enough to say anything before? So, what allows a group of people to, on one side, walk around as they're the holy people, and on the other side, molest and rape and do all of these things, and it's completely okay? Well, if you have a law that says that you can do this to other people as long as they're not the same as you, then you can tarry both of those lines like it's okay. Go ahead, brother.
The Babylonian Talmud comprises the Mishnah, the oral law, and the Babylonian Gemara, rabbinic opinions of the Mishnah, the latter representing the culmination of more than 300 years of analysis of the Mishnah and the Talmudic academies in Babylonia.
All right, now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 17. The amazing part is how we accept all of the things that are presented to us. I mean, as we're at this this thing about police brutality and the things that have happened to young black males, and I don't know if some of y'all remember seeing on television, it was one of the preachers, they had him to go through this training where it was active shooter training to try and see what it is the police go through, so that, you know, we would be more sympathetic, you know, to them, you know, shooting black people. So, you know, they basically had this mock-up thing to where, you know, you're the person with this gun, and then they flash these images in front of you, and within that exercise, you know, some people shot some innocent people. So they want to, you know, that was put together so that, you know, the people would be, you know, you would kind of understand or feel for the police and what they go through. Now, there was a couple of Christian pastors who had gone through it, and the Jewish guy, the rabbi at the synagogue, not no good and well, he ain't none of his people got shot. So what are they going through? Here's the one of the pushes. If the leader of the congregation goes through it and then he feels sympathetic, then he then comes and teaches you to be sympathetic to the police actions when they turn around and shoot unarmed people. But you can't tell me how you was threatened by a guy as his back is turned and he's running the other way. Where's the video to make them feel sympathetic to what we go through? Where's that video? Where's that app?
Simulation training.
Yeah, where's that? Where's that? They got a young black training. So it's a lot of things that are going on around us, and we have to figure out why. Deuteronomy chapter 17, and let's read verses 8 through 13.
If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within your gates, then shall you arise and get you up into the place which Yahweh your El shall choose.
You shall arise and get to the place where Yahweh your Elohim shall choose. So consider this, all right? This is the little subtitle heading that they put here is obedience to authority. Now, this very thing will then be used to justify these other 6,200 pages of addition that they have done. Watch the slickness. Go ahead.
And you shall come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show you the sentence of judgment.
Now, when this is instituted, of course, this is Moshe instituting these things do understand these other things don't happen till quite some time later. So they are not even available to deal with any Talmud or Mishnah or anything. So the sentence of the law that they're going to be directed out of is the Torah. Go ahead.
And you shall do according to the sentence which they of that place which Yahweh shall choose shall show you. And you shall observe to do according to all that they inform you. According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you, you shall do. You shall not decline from the sentence which they shall show you, to the right hand nor to the left.
Right. Now, this very thing is what they then turn around and use and say, this is why you have to obey the priest. So then when these so-called rabbis have written all of these things, now they then use this line to say that now, because the priests have informed you, now you must not decline from it, or now you have done something evil. Here's the problem. The sentence that they're supposed to direct you out of doesn't come from another book. It comes from the Torah. They're not directing out of the Torah. Go ahead.
And the man that will do presumptuously and will not hearken unto the priest.
Right. So now they make it more about you listening to the priest than about the priest giving you the word that's in the book. See, now they done bypassed the actual wording of the book. Now it's more about the dude who's standing there and not about where he's reading or where he's getting that information from. This is why you go to church and everybody just worship the pastor. They can't tell you nothing that Yahweh said. They can't tell you nothing that the Messiah said. Pastor sure did a good one today, child. I tell you, boy, Pastor awesome. Yes, he is. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? What was the message? Well, I don't know, but Pastor sure said, wait a minute. Whoa. What was the message? And where it come from? See, it's not about, this part. If they don't, this is what happens when you take bits and pieces of things. If you don't hearken unto the priest, then now you have done presumptuously. But where did the priest get that information? See, I don't just throw stuff out on the table. No. I'm going to read you some stuff. Then I'm going to tell you where I got those things from. And then we're going to go somewhere else and explain that part. And then somewhere else to explain another part. We're not just going to talk about what we think, feel, and believe. Go ahead, bro.
No, I just wanted to say, we read it every Sabbath. It says that if any man speak, let him speak of the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as the ability which Elohim gives.
Well, all you got to do is make one little change. And with the one little change, say that everything that the priests say is just as good as if God said it himself, which is blasphemy right there. But once you do that, now you can throw all Yahweh instructions in the back seat. You ain't even got to deal with the Torah anymore. Because understand, you got to get away from that Torah if you're not going to attempt to be spiritual Israel. You got to throw the Torah away if you're trying to prove that you are the natural descendants of Israel, but you can't provide any slavery whatsoever. You got to throw the Torah away. So they have to use some other book, because it's going to automatically come into question when you start talking about Deuteronomy 28 and all these things that the children of Israel are supposed to have gone through. Then you say, okay, well, show me yours. And they can't show you that. So they got to get away from that book. Go ahead.
And will not hearken unto the priest that stands to minister there before Yahweh your Elohim, or unto the judge, even that man shall die. And you shall put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear and do no more presumptuously.
Right. So then, taking this out of context, they then tell the people that you must obey the Talmud, Mishnah, and Jamar. Nice little trick. Let's go to 2 Kings 17. Nice little trick. Now, we went through this on Bible study. I'm going to go through a couple of points that I want to make sure you get out of here. 2 Kings 17, and we're going to start with verses 9 through 18.
Verse 9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh their Elohim. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree.
Right, to this day, our people love to set up that evergreen tree and put those presents under. To this day, they love it. Matter of fact, when we first come into this word, that's one of the biggest fights we have when you take down that Christmas tree. Boy, you see a woman about 3 feet, boy, jump up 5 feet and slap you, boy. You take that tree down, boy. You be fighting right down in the living room. Like, what's up with the tree? Make you think all of this, certain ornaments, they family keepsakes. Oh, boy, I've been there, done that. Yeah. Make you feel real connected to that paganism. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen, whom Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke Yahweh to anger. For they served idols, whereof Yahweh had said unto them, You shall not do this thing. Yet Yahweh testified against Israel and against Yehudah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying,
Now, he testified against Yehudah by all the prophets and the seers. So the testifying, even within that, he's still doing that in an order. Testifying against them, and the prophets are explaining to them, hey, this is what the words say, but this is what y'all doing. That way everybody have an opportunity to turn from the direction that they're walking in. But you know us, until we see the fire and we feel the fire on our backside, we still think we got time. So we're gonna ride it out. Well, I don't think destruction is gonna come tonight. So it's late at night. Let's go on out here, take care of this business. We'll repent in the morning. Right. Right. Go ahead.
Turn you from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity, and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahweh their Elohim, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. Therefore Yahweh was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Yehudah only.
All right, jump to verse 23.
Until Yahweh removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
Right. So you have at a very early point, you have other people being brought in to learn the culture of Israel, because it throws people off. People want to believe. They say, well, if these people are not the Jews, then how do they know so much about the culture? Keep reading.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, The nations which you have removed, and place in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the El of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and, behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the Elohim of the land.
Now, you know what's interesting? That even being heathens, they knew that the land was revolting against them, is why all of a sudden these lions are coming upon them, attacking them. We have stuff happen among us, and we would never even sit down and wonder, you know, I wonder if that's because I'm doing something I ain't got no business doing. No, put more gas in this fire. Let's keep going. Right. Go ahead.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests from whom you brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the Elohim of the land.
See, this is how Yahweh do. He make you train your replacement. And that ain't the only time he did. He did the same thing with Eli. Eli wouldn't follow the instructions. He loved his sons more than he loved Yahweh. His sons at the door sleeping with all the women that come through. He wouldn't discipline the boys. I mean, he said something to them, but he didn't remove them. He didn't chastise them harshly for it. And Yahweh said, you chose your sons over me. And Yahweh dealt with him. Go ahead.
Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear Yahweh. Howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of their high places, which the Samaritans had made.
Right. So these nations, they did what they had to do as far as serving Yahweh, but then they had their other little thing going on. Now I think we understand where those other two candles come from. Now we understand where them other two spirits come from. Go ahead.
Every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. And the man of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the man of Cuth made Nergal, and the man of Hamath made Ashima, and the Ivites made Nibhaz and Tartek, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in the fire to Adremelech and Anemelech, the gods of the Sepharvaim.
Right. And you find that Israel got off into this very thing. You got to do a lot to convince me to, you know what I'm saying, throw my children in the fire. That's something. But hey, people read this and they said, you know, there's no way, you know, you can convince somebody to do that. Hey, y'all looking at the news? When the dude go through and blow up a building and he got a bomb duct taped to his back, what do you believe? He gonna wake up with 7 virgins? How you convince somebody to put a duct tape a bomb to their backside? But if you're willing to do all of that in death, shouldn't you be able to do much less than that and live? Y'all ain't asked you to sacrifice yourself. Now you can keep that duct tape bomb thing. That's not gonna happen. Go ahead.
So they feared Yahweh and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places.
Right. So now we got lowest of priests, and we don't want to call them lowest of priests because we accept other people's person. We accept pomp and circumstance. Once the television and other people acknowledge those people, we don't want to say anything about it. But we're going to show how the lowest of priests act. Go ahead.
Which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared Yahweh and served their own gods, after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence.
All right. So that we see then they are allowed to halfway do this thing. We're going to read, let's go to Esther chapter 8. There's certain things that you need to know. There's certain historical points that you need to be able to show. Oh, right here, here's where other people got in the land, where other people learned all of the culture, and here's the training of these lesser priests. So you got people, you got priests, and you got fake dealings all going on, authorized by these priests of lowly people in the land. Let's read Esther chapter 8 and let's read verse 17.
And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Yehudis had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day.
Right, because at one point they were going to be slaughtered. Now they get the opportunity to fight against their enemies. All right, go ahead.
And many of the people of the land became Yehudis.
All right. Many of the people, they said, well, we what y'all live. We that right there. Many of the people became Yehudis. Go ahead.
For the fear of the Yehudis fell upon them.
So we need to know about these events, because what happens is people then turn around and try to make you prove who you are. Like the question that came to Elder Barak, so you think you Jews? No, I know I am. See, it's certain things you need to, quite frankly, you got to stand on strong enough so that nobody else is able to give you low self-esteem about your culture and who it is that you are. Then when Barak told the man, y'all change the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday, I thought it was a swivel in that man's chair. He turned around so quick away from Barak. He didn't answer. He didn't say nothing. He acted like Barak hadn't said nothing. He was in the middle of a conversation. He said, so y'all change the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday. I was like, man. After that, he didn't want to talk to Barak no more. He was talking to me. Come on, can I talk to you guy? Come on. Let me talk to that guy there. He's just stabbing people. Huh? He didn't want to talk to Barak no more. He was done. He did speak on the way out, stuff like that. Revelation chapter 2. But you're reading this book, and Yahshua did the same thing. They came up to him with some questionable stuff, and he tore them up where they were standing. See, people want to try to tell you, well, God is love, and Christ, he just went out and passed out flowers. No, he turned over tables, and he said, hey, man, why y'all got all this merchandise in here, man? We got these sheep and these oxen and all this stuff in my father's house, man. My father's house is not a house of merchandise. What's all this stuff for sale? That part they want to tell you about. They just want to tell you just went around hugging people. Talking about how beautiful the children is. Look at the beautiful children. No. That's not all he did. See, somebody telling half a story. Revelation chapter 2, and let's read verse 9.
I know your works, and tribulation, and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Yehudis, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
Now, that's a harsh statement. And that's written in red. So this is the Messiah talking. See? That is, now you got these same people. God is love. He loves everyone. Well, he don't love whoever this is right here, this synagogue of Satan. See? This is his words, not mine. Now, when you start, you got to be prepared now. Because once you start saying these things, people are going to then accuse you, make some accusations against you, racist. You ain't nothing, you are a racist teacher. We're going to get to that. Hold what you got. Read to 3 and verse 9.
Behold, I'll make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Yehudis, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I'll make them to come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you.
So he's making a point to say, these people saying that they are something, but I'm going to make them worship at your feet to prove that you are the true children of Israel. Now, why is he going to do all of that? And then he goes through this twice. He goes through one part in Revelation 2 and 9, and then goes through a part of it again in 3 and 9. So this is a point that he's making. And we're talking about this the last book in the New Testament, and he's talking about these people who say that they are Jews and they're not. And we know that the majority of all these people come out of Germany. And we know that Germans themselves are Gentiles. They don't come try to tell people that they are not Gentiles. Matter of fact, the whole fight between Germany and the people who were there calling themselves the Jews is they were not a pure Aryan race. Wait a minute. So you arguing about the purity of your whiteness? Well, if that's the case, how you going to be a Jew at all? If you arguing about how pure your Aryan connection is. This is what Germany said. Exterminate all these non-pure Aryans. Right. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you look at it, we have to look at the fact of how specific he is. He didn't say those who say they're the children of Israel. He specifically said who say they're Jews, and they're not.
Right.
They don't claim to be the children of
They sure
Israel.
don't. No. The Gentiles claim to be Beta Israel. In Britain and America, they claim to be Israel. There's one group of people who claim to be the Jews. Genesis chapter 2. So we see then all of these organized things, and a lot of times those things get us, the belief that this organized teaching must be better. That same guy, Bob, asked me, so how do you go about being a priest in your faith? You know, they want to ask you, what school you went to? Yeah. So I trained under an elder with 40 years of experience. What about you, Bob? Yeah. That's what I thought, Bob. That's why. See, even though we can have this conversation and we can still, speak cordially, but I'm gonna let you know that sword is serious, Every time you come wrong, you gonna feel it. And I ain't got to holler and yell and, you know what I'm saying, act all, Igorish. We ain't got to do all that. We ain't got to go and act like knuckles. No, we ain't got to do that. We're gonna speak absolutely pure and perfect English while I'm tearing you up with this word. But you're gonna learn that you're not going to give me low self-esteem out of this book. Ain't going to happen. And that same thing is going to be with you. The more you read it, the more you take hold of who it is that you are, then you walk in the power of your culture. And ain't nobody going to be able to give you low self-esteem about it. Genesis chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 15.
I was just going to say, and even with the situation before you got there, his whole thing is, he was directing the conversation. He was asking the questions. At one point, it popped to me what Sock says, nah, turn the table on them and you start asking questions. That's why I said, so where's your church at? Which eventually led to us find out he was Catholic. Because he was the one directing, asking. So we got to keep answering.
Right.
No, let me start asking some questions.
Right. And that keeps you on the defensive all the time. See? You always on the defensive because you're letting other people control, and whether you know it or not, you're consenting to their power when you do it. See, they took them 2.3 hours of psychology and they're using that on you. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may eat freely, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die.
For in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. Now, Yahweh's time frame and man's time frame is not the same. Lucifer knows this. So understand how Satan, when you call somebody, if Yahshua is going to say that this is the synagogue of Satan, then that means that there's something going on that is likened unto the way that Satan himself operates. So let's see how Satan operates. Go ahead.
And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I'll make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof.
Now, you know what I find amazing? That, especially them, the little purple kung fu dudes who be walking around on the corner, they can believe that Yahweh opened a man up and made a woman out of a rib. But they tell you, ain't no way you can make a baby without a man and a woman being together. So, but you believe he can split him and open him up? But you don't think he can make a baby without... What in the world? You know what kind of twisted mindset you got to have to believe that he can open up the innards and take out a rib, but he can't just plant a seed in a woman to make a baby? Go ahead, bro.
And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Right. This is how the growth of marriage is supposed to go. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother. When you talk about the mother or the woman, they always say in a marriage, who gives this woman away? Then they go and start their own family. And that is where that separation needs to be. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. When those things are not done correctly, they don't get to become one flesh. There's a reason why I said, now you need to leave your folks. Because the whole time you trying to grow, here come your folks. Child, I wouldn't be doing that. You know, he can walk himself. I don't know why you making that plate. Mom, I'm going to need you to go sit down. I'm going to need you to go sit down. Right. See, they're supposed to have opportunity to cleave. And just like this situation, Lucifer comes into the middle of it. 3 and 1.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh El had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has Elohim said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.
Now, you see how slick the adversary is using this serpent, because now the conversation is being had secondhand. The information was given unto the man. He ain't talking to the man. He talking to the woman. Go ahead.
And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die.
You won't surely die. So, how does the adversary operate? He teaches a different doctrine. So when you hear Yahshua in the end of the book say this synagogue of Satan, synagogue is where you go to learn. It's going to be a different doctrine there. Go ahead.
For Elohim does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
See, this is what a forked tongue do. Part of it be true, and then part of it be a lie. That's how you hide the truth. In between, you put that lie right in the middle. I call it the lie sandwich. You got the truth down here, and you got another piece of truth, but that lie right in the middle. So you don't even see the lie. Right away, you taste them 2 pieces of truth on the top and the bottom. You got to chew a little bit to be like, I think there's a lie in here. It's too late now. It's in your mouth. Yeah, it's too late now. See? You got that lie in there. Go ahead.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat.
Right. And we go to these congregations, and it looks pomp and circumstance, and we see them, and they over there, blah, and we over there with them. Hey, this looks good. Right. Bunch of mess. Go ahead.
And gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat.
Mm-hmm.
And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked.
Right. So now both of them have taken hold to this strange doctrine that the adversary brought forth. Yahweh taught one thing, Satan taught something else. Go ahead.
And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahweh El walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden.
Right. So you find out then that this new doctrine then separates you from Yahweh. They were able to be amongst Yahweh as long as they kept his doctrine. When they accepted Satan's doctrine, now they taking off running. Now they scared of Yahweh's presence. They weren't scared of his presence before. But now this new knowledge got you afraid of his presence that you now taking off hiding yourself. You know you naked. Yahweh already knew you were naked. A kid who's naked is unashamed. Once that kid comes to a certain understanding, that kid starts to learn shame about being naked. But there's innocence and purity in the youngness of a child. There was innocence and purity before they had that knowledge. The purity is gone now. Go ahead.
And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Who told you that you was naked? Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded you that you should not eat?
Right. The question, it wasn't that, you ain't naked. Yeah, you naked. But who told you? Imagine your toddler come up and say, I was naked, so I didn't come out. Who told you you was naked? How do you even understand what naked is? Yeah, something strange didn't happen here. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. See, that was Yahweh's little toddler there, and all of a sudden they grew up. He always said something strange here. They didn't go through the normal progression of growth. Exodus chapter 20, and let's read verses 1 through 4.
And Elohim spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, which have brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me.
Mm-hmm.
You shall not make unto you any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
You shall not make unto you any graven image. This has been causing Israel a problem. Let's go to Acts chapter 7. And we know this whole symbol that people want to say is, a symbol for the Jews, which is supposed to be this Star of David. But when we get in this book, we find out the Star of David is Christ. Ain't no such thing as some symbol of the Star of David. Acts chapter 7, and let's read verses 38 through 43.
Verse 38. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spake to him in Mount Sinai, and with our fathers, who received lively oracles to give unto us, to whom our fathers would not obey, but thrust him from them, and in their hearts turned back again into Egypt, saying unto Aaron, Make us gods to go before us. For as for this Moshe, which brought us out of the land of Egypt, we know not what is become of him. And they made a calf in those days, and offered sacrifice unto the idol, and rejoiced in the works of their own hands. Then Elohim turned and gave them up to worship the host of heaven.
Then Elohim turned and gave them up to worship the host of heaven. See, the nations have already been worshiping the host of heaven. But when we have a situation where we were given these holy oracles, where we were given direction, but then we want to go and do what the nations did, then Yahweh turn around and give us up. And when you understand some of the things that they do, what they do is, you know, look up in the sky at night and see where the constellations are, you know, and like we used to do when we were kids. And you look at the clouds and say, man, that look like a man. Oh, that look like a cloud. That look like a car right there. Well, they play connect the dot with the stars. Yeah, that look like a Sagittarius right there. Yeah, we're going to worship that. So they go out there and pick their little gods out of the constellations in the sky, and we have no idea that this is where they got a whole lot of their little mess from. Go ahead.
As it is written in the book of the prophets, O you house of Israel, have you offered to me slain beasts and sacrifices by the space of 40 years in the wilderness? Yes, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan.
And that's what your little star David is. The star of your god Remphan. And they telling everybody, this is the star of David. No, that's the star of Remphan. You can take your little god and get it on out of here. Then you got it sitting right in the midst of that 9-branch menorah, which is already a problem. Because Yahweh gave us 7. That menorah got 9. We had something happen to this one, and we went to try and get another one. And people was like, what, you want a 7? First of all, the Jewish lady want to know, well, what are you using it for? Look, man, just tell me if you got one or not. Is this for a congregation, or are you doing it for your house? What you need to know what it's for? Do you have one or not? Well, I mean, they're basically doing away with the 7. Everybody has the 9. Yeah, well, I don't need the other 2 spears. I just need the 7. What a 7? The one that Yahweh wants us to have. What that one at? Oh, you don't have to find the 7. They're trying to give you them other 2 spears. Take these home with you. No, I don't need those. Go ahead.
Figures which you made to worship them, and I'll carry you away beyond Babylon.
I will carry you away beyond Babylon. And do not forget, the Talmud is called the Talmud Bavli, which is the Babylonian Talmud. Okay? Anytime you got Yahweh and Babylon together, there's a problem. Okay? Just thought I, just in case some of y'all missed that. Okay? Babylon ain't supposed to go hand in hand with Yahweh. Go ahead, brother. Read this next note.
From Acts the priest. Or from Acts
Ask
the rabbi.
Probably. Watch out, brother. Watch out. Watch out, brother.
From Acts the rabbi.
Watch out. Watch out. All right. Now, this is a letter that was written in. All right. Go ahead.
And Abner Stein from Tampa, Florida, wrote,
Dear
Rabbi, I thought that blessings having Asher Kidshanu be mitzvatzvi, anu, that God sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us, are reserved for ones that originate in the Torah.
So this is one of the chants or the sayings that are said, and he's saying that why are we making this chant or this saying if the thing that is being said did not come out of the Torah? Go ahead.
Yet the first blessing for lighting the Hanukkah also contains this phrase, even though the holiday isn't in the Torah. Is this an exception?
So then the rabbi answers. Go ahead.
Dear Abner Stein, lighting Hanukkah candles is not one of the 613 mitzvot of the Torah.
Not one of the 613 laws. Go ahead.
Rather, it is a rabbinic mitzvah.
Also, now it's a rabbinic law. See? So if I just command y'all, it's a sock law. You know what I'm saying? It's not a Yahweh, it was a sock law. Sock said such and such. All right, go ahead.
That was enacted by the sages.
The sages is what they're going to call, their so-called holy rabbis who get together and make up these rules and regulations that they either like or dislike. And they, like we said before when we read, anything that they decide to talk about. So basically, the conversation that me and the brothers have at the dinner table has been turned into the Talmud. Just conversation, because it's just oral conversation that they then turn around and wrote down about certain issues. Go ahead.
By the sages of the Sanhedrin, Supreme Torah Court, during the Second Temple period. Yet, the blessings we say when we light the Hanukkah candles, Vitzvanu lahadlik nershal Hanukkah, means that Hashem,
who is that? Go ahead.
Commanded us to light them. How can we say that God commanded us to perform a rabbinic mitzvah? The answer is this.
Now, listen to the answer.
One of the 613 laws in the Torah is the commandment to obey the Sanhedrin. Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 11.
Now, we read Deuteronomy 17 and verse 11. See, I told y'all they use this stuff to twist the word. Now, so they going to push back to Deuteronomy 17 and 11, and it says that you are supposed to obey the Sanhedrin. This is their court. Remember now. We're going to get there. Go ahead.
And since the sages enacted the lighting of Hanukkah candles, therefore lighting the candles indeed becomes like a commandment from the Torah.
Ooh, blasphemy. It is utter blasphemy. Go ahead, brother, read the next one.
We say a similar blessing for other rabbinic commandments as well, such as lighting Shabbat candles Friday afternoon and reading the scroll of Esther on Purim. Both of these are not commanded in the Torah. Yet in the blessing we say that God commanded these things, because God commands us to listen to the sages who instituted them.
And go right back
Deuteronomy
to
chapter
Deuteronomy
17 and verse 11.
Now read it.
According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you, you shall do. You shall not decline from the sentence which they shall show you, to the right hand nor to the left.
Right. Now, read that last line.
Remember, it was the Sanhedrin that ordered the Mashiach to be killed.
And they're telling you, since the Sanhedrin, this group of so-called priests have said these things, then it's just like God said it himself. Remember now, them the same ones, it was the Sanhedrin that said, hey, it is beneficial that one man die for the whole nation. So you need to know, when we start talking, see, people will start to tell you that, oh man, you being racist if you gonna say synagogue of Satan. No, I didn't say synagogue of Satan. Christ did. Now let's back up and try to figure out where the synagogue of Satan is. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 23. And I'm not saying it's just in one place. And that Deuteronomy 17, in no way, shape, fashion, or form does it say what they saying to say. Now, you need to obey such a... it was talking about the sentence of the law. Remember, that they was going to show you out of what Moshe gave you. The stuff that they showing you, coming out of the Talmud, Mishnah, and Gemara, has absolutely nothing to do with what Moshe said. And if you read any of it, you're going to be completely grossed out. Oh, it'll gross you out. Jeremiah 23, and let's read verses 16 through 22.
Thus saith the Yahweh of hosts, hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of Yahweh. They say still unto them that despise me, Yahweh hath said, you shall have peace. And they say unto everyone that walks after the imagination of his own heart, no evil shall come upon you. For who hath stood in the counsel of Yahweh, and has perceived and heard his word? Who has marked his word, and heard it? Behold, a whirlwind of Yahweh is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The anger of Yahweh shall not return, until he have executed, until he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied.
Right. He says, I have not spoken to them, yet their words are held as sacred as if it came from the Torah. The stuff that came out of the Torah were things that were specifically told to Moshe. So if then you're going to take the words of a regular man and say that it has the same weight as the words of Moshe, you're saying God said it. Go ahead.
But if they had stood in my counsel and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from the evil doing and from the evil of their doings. Pardon me. I am Yahweh.
That's all right. Let's go to read this. Well, don't worry about that. When you begin to state these facts, be ready for the name calling. The key number one name that you will be called is an anti-Semite, and the irony is amazing, as the people who will accuse you of anti-Semitism are not even Shemites, which is what the term means. When they say anti-Semitic, it is actually anti-Shemitic, and it is quite ironic that a person who is not a Shemite will then accuse you of being anti-Semitic. So we need to explain that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10. Because all you have to do, if you say anything or bring out any of these truths, you are then accused of being anti-Semitic. Now, anti-Semitic is a weird term in itself, because it means that you must be racist, but only racist against Jewish. Because they don't really, care if you're racist against, black people or anything like that. Just if you are anti-Shem. Noah had 3 sons. So the children of Israel come out of the lineage of Shem. So they accuse you of being anti-Shem, anti-Shemitic. The problem is, these people are converts, and they themselves are Gentiles. They are not Shemitic. Genesis chapter 10 and read verse 6.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan.
All right, the land was called Canaan land. That's who lived there before we got it. All right, and the sons of Ham, Cush. Cush is Ethiopia. How many white Ethiopians you seen? Cush, Mizraim, and Phut, those are Egyptians. Now, if Cush, Ethiopia, is the brother, what do you think his brothers look like? So you have these things, and to go on with that, brother, read that definition of Ham.
Ham, the same as H2525, hot from the tropical habitat. Shem, a son of Noah, also as a patronymic, his descendants of their country, Ham. Ham signifies burnt or black.
Right, burnt or black. So then you think about the look of these people. This described them. When you talk about Ethiopians, you talk about Mizraim and Phut. You're talking about Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, not them people who live there now. Go ahead.
And this name was peculiarly significant of the regions allotted to his family. To the Cushites, or descendants of Cush.
Ethiopians
were allotted the hot southern regions of Asia, along the shores of the Persian Gulf.
Right. They're going to try to tell you that no black people ever lived in that area. It was Africans before Israel got it. It is impossible that there were not Africans or black people there before. It's called Canaan land. Go ahead.
Susiana or Cushitan, etc. To the sons of Canaan. Palestine and Syria.
See, when you think Palestine, you don't think jet black. See? Right. But that's what you can do when you are in control of what images people see. Go ahead.
to the sons of Mizmarim, Egypt and Libya in Africa.
So we have to then consider this. It says to the hot, southern regions, right? Understand, Israel has the highest rate of melanoma in the world. Now, if Yahweh gave these people a land, why is the sun killing them in it? See, you got melanin in your skin. It absorbs sunlight. So if Yahweh is going to make you or give you a land, he's also going to have to give you skin that can withstand being that close to the sun. But when you have some people who have been pulled out of Germany and then put in the land, their skin does not agree with the area that they're in because they don't have any melanin. So they're getting cancer at enormous rates because they were not designed to be in that place. So you gonna tell me Yahweh gonna give you something that kill you? What kind of gift is that? That's like Yahweh give you a child. Here you go a loaded 45. I love you. Why would you give me a loaded 45? You love me and I'm 3. You know I'm gonna get my full self. Why would he give you a land and turn around and give you cancer? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Let's go to Acts chapter 21. Yahweh gives perfect gifts. He's not going to give you something that's going to kill you. Now, you might turn around and deal with it wrong and make it kill you. But it ain't nothing they doing wrong. They just stand there. And all they do is come outside and get baked. But you're going to tell me you were slaves for 400 years? Working outside in the heat every day? Now, let's do simple mathematics. I knew some folks who went on their honeymoon. They went to a tropical place for a week. When they got back, they both looked like raccoons because they had shades on. And when they took the shades off, this part was light and everything else was dark. I was like, man, just a couple days cooked y'all like that? And you want to tell me that somebody else was doing that for 430 years, working out in that kind of heat? Come on, man, don't fool yourself. And don't let somebody else fool you either. This is why when you read the Songs of Solomon, the woman said, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. I'm comely. My brothers and sisters, they were angry with me and made me tend to the vineyard. So they made me be outside more. And being outside more, I became darker. This is clearly in there. Being outside in the sun don't make white people black. It make black people blacker. But it don't make white people black. See? And tan go away. So it's some things that we have to consider. Acts chapter 21 and verse 37.
I just got a quick
Go
question
ahead.
for you. Wasn't it one of the baptismal women recently who was talking about the tents of Kedar?
No, it was, she was talking about her husband was overseas. And he ended up being over there by, in that region of Kedar. And it says the tents of Kedar was jet black. And he, was not a Bible person and told his wife, I seen the tents of Kedar and they jet black, being in the Middle East. And, we don't go anywhere. We don't really see any of that stuff. So, those are things that people will try to, keep from us. Because we've seen some of the statements that were made online and watch people try to pass along some kind of low self-esteem that, you're crazy to even believe this. That's why the statement deserved to cut. So you think you Jews? The statement deserved to cut. Acts chapter 21 and verse 37.
And as Saul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto you? Who said, Can you speak Greek? Are not you that Egyptian, which before these days made an uproar and led out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
The thing you got to pay attention to, this is the Apostle Paul, who has gone all the way across Europe and Asia teaching, and the first thing they ask him, ain't you that burnt face? Egypt is a descendant of Ham, Mizraim and Foot. He said, ain't you that burnt face, that Egyptian? Go ahead.
But Saul said, I'm a man which am a Yehudi of Tarsus.
Right. So I'm a Jew. So then you look at these descendants of Shem, you then look at Ham, burnt face. He accused him of being one of them black people that led those murderers out. So then you find out that then the Jews look like these Africans then. Go ahead. Did you finish that?
No, I still got the end. A city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech you, suffer me to speak unto the people.
Right, and we have to consider one thing. Joseph was in Egypt, dressed as an Egyptian, and his brothers didn't even recognize him. That's how closely the Egyptians and Israel resemble one another. His own brothers didn't know it was him. Then when they were told to go and hide the Mashiach, he told them to go hide in Egypt. Now, if that was a little white boy with blue eyes, don't you know how fast they would have found him in Egypt? He said, man, we looking for the king of the Jews. Oh, there's a little white boy down here with blue eyes right now. Y'all should come down here and scoop him up. They would have found him in 20 minutes. But when he looked like all the people that he's hiding amongst, you can't figure out where he is. You don't hide among things that are completely different. You hide among things that you can blend in with. That's how you hide. So that then kind of leads us to some of this other stuff here. Brother, read this next note here.
An empire of their own. How the Jews invented Hollywood.
Now, this is a book that was written, and then there was a little commentary given on the book. Now, the person that's really giving the commentary don't really like, the person that wrote the book. But it's interesting still to note some of the things. So when you talk about that there is this book, this Talmud that overrides all of the laws, statutes, and judgments that Yahweh has given in the Torah. So then you have this complete thing of sexual depravity going on in Hollywood. And then consider that it was built by Jewish people. You have to ask yourself, how can you be the holy people, yet all of this is still going on in an organization that you built? Go ahead.
The overall thesis of this long, meandering book is that the immigrant Jews who started the American film industry had an outsider's yearning to become part of American society, that their films reflected an idolized version of America, and that these films, in turn, became so influential as to have defined American values.
So they then defined American values, so then they're able to direct people with these images that they put on screen. Do understand that Hollywood was built to combat Hitler's propaganda machine. Hitler made movies of propaganda to teach people the hatred that he wanted to have for Jewish people. In turn, they wanted anti-propaganda, and in turn, this ended up building Hollywood, but it was all for their agenda. This is what it was started for. Don't forget that. Go ahead.
For Neil Gabler, then, the Jews of Hollywood, by creating their idolized America on the screen, reinvented the country in the image of their fiction. They colonized the American imagination. This paradox is hardly news to anyone who has thought about the rise of Hollywood, but it is buttressed here by hundreds of pages of biography of selected film moguls.
Uh-huh.
Adolf Zukor, Carl Laemmle, William Fox, Louis B. Mayer, Jesse L. Lasky, Harry Cohen, the Warner Brothers, and their studios. Still, to their credit, as Gabler notes, the moguls were not just money-grubbing Philistines. Not only did they sincerely believe in the films they made, but they themselves were the creative powers behind those films. Louis B. Mayer, semi-illiterate, though he may have been, ultimately guided MGM in the type of movie it made for decades. Harry Cohen, often portrayed as a monster of egotism and predatory sexual behavior.
Now, this is at the beginning of Hollywood. Hollywood is being built. And the beginning head mogul is portrayed as a monster of egotism and predatory sexual behavior. It was built from day one with this mindset. Go ahead.
Was also a brilliant executive who, on a fraction of MGM's budget, moved Columbia Pictures up from poverty row into the front rank.
So, understanding how the Talmud directs things, that they don't have to keep the law to any of the people who are described as goyim, which in their eyes you would be goy. You would be a heathen, and they don't have to keep the law to the heathen. They only have to keep the law to one another. Then you understand how this industry has gone on for so long with all of the predatory behavior in it, and nobody has said a thing. Because the bottom line is, once you speak out against them, you ain't getting no more movies. Go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say, you know, it was also said that Walt Disney himself was a pervert. And when you look at all these children that come out from being these Disney kids, watch their adulthood and see what kind of stuff they go through. A lot of them are sick. Most of them kids who started as child stars on the Disney Channel.
A lot of them have written and said that their molestation and all of those things began as a child actor, that they were pushed into all of these things. But we need to understand that that is a certain part of European culture. When you talk about the Trojan man, you have to understand that the Trojan man was gay. He used women for reproduction. The Trojans at 12 years old was given a boy to take out in the woods and train him and do whatever they wanted to do with that boy. And every last one of them, it would be something. And as that one got older, then he would in turn be given a boy. So when you talk about this whole thing of dealing with children, this is a part of that whole thing. When you look at how widespread the problem is in Catholicism with molestation, they don't address it. They just move the Catholic priest to another place. When it is customary for you to be given a 12-year-old boy, that's normal behavior, then what do you think happened when you move? Those ideals come with you. Go ahead.
Where are we going?
Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 48 through 51.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Right. So Yahweh was not forbidding other people to be a part of his culture. He just said, if you're going to deal with it, then come and follow the rules and regulations that were already set before. Go ahead.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn,
Uh-huh.
and unto the stranger that sojourns among you.
Right. So any book that ends up teaching that you can treat some people good, that you can sleep with one person's wife as long as they're not a Jew, there's something wrong with that book. The person, the book that says that you can lay with a young girl of a certain age, there's something wrong with that book. As long as that young girl is not a Jew. There's something wrong there. Because he says, one law shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. So you can't mistreat people just because they don't look like you. Go ahead.
Thus did all the children of Israel. As Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
Right. And I saved the worst one for last. And this here, when we talk about what the synagogue of Satan is, I don't know if y'all know what y'all looking at. This is circumcision, and then this is the mitzvah bay, which has been known to cause herpes or even death. This is where the Jewish priests do the circumcision and then suck the extra blood off of the child. This, by the way, this is happening open in the synagogue. The parents, if I zoomed out of this picture, you'll see the parents standing there as well. And several of these kids have died from this thing, and they're talking about outlawing it in New York because of these things. And so when we put on the table about being the synagogue of Satan, instead of looking at me thinking that I'm racist, I want you to leave with this image in your head. I saved it for last because it's absolutely disgusting and gross. So I want you to have that in your head so that you'll know one thing. It's not my opinion, okay? Yahweh commanded that we do circumcision. Now, because of this, some in the event to stop this thing, some are even trying to justify the change and rationalizing that there's no more circumcision and just take circumcision out altogether. Why would you want to take circumcision out? That's what's supposed to be done. It's this mess that ain't supposed to be done. So when you hear the thing about the synagogue of Satan, don't just be so quick to think that this person must be anti-Semitic. And at some point, you got to look in this book, go over this stuff, and know that I don't care who stands up and say this, that this is customary. This ain't no custom. And don't you let nobody do this to your child. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.